before. It's got my mind racing, thinking thoughts I shouldn't be thinking. So many things went wrong, so many friends have gone. I've been hurting for so long, for so long, but I won't give up, I won't quit, I'm not built that way.
Hey, so when we left, you were getting ready to talk about one of your events on Teddy Roosevelt, where you watched one of your shipmates get blown overboard. How did that happen?
Yeah. Petty Officer Mark Wall. He was I just left one of my bird off, and I'm walking back to the line shack or whatever with my chains, and you always had to kind of like walk heavy, on top of the aircraft carrier, like you didn't want gravity to like pull you up almost, but or whatever. But you always had to keep like on a swivel, your head on a swivel,
Right.
because there's so much going on up there all the time. So I'm walking back, with my chains, kind of like trudging back to the shack. He was just coming up for to go to his bird, and you do the nod when you're passing somebody, and then next thing I know, I just nodded past, and then my peripheral, he's rolling past and goes over. And it was night ops. It was just
My God.
yeah, night ops. So I mean, we had back then, we had like these, I don't know, these things they're supposed to inflate on their own, these vests that we wore when you hit the water.
LPUs.
Or you'd blow into them or whatever, and then the beacon was supposed to start shining. I guess supposedly it did. I don't know, but we're in the middle of night ops. He blows over, and I'm 19, so I don't know. I know more now today, and have a little bit of a better understanding of why the situation went the way it did. But back then, I did it. And so search and rescue get their helicopter, fly out there. They see his body, and they drop a life rig with another beacon, and then they fly off so they can land 2 more aircraft. And then they land the aircraft, and when they go back, there's just a life rig, and he's nowhere to be found.
Oh my God.
And now it's like, as I'm older and understanding that, we have to maintain certain speeds, on an aircraft carrier to land the aircraft, since it's not landing on a full runway and all that stuff. But back then it was just like, why didn't they just grab him? Why did they drop a rig? Why didn't they just grab him, retrieve the body? We don't know if he was alive or dead, maybe from impact from that height, who knows? But I just was like, why didn't they just grab him and bring something back? And so then I go to bed that night, thinking, what if that was me? And we're that expendable, we're that meaningless to this whole thing. And in my head, man, I've learned this over the years too. It's like, I overplay so much. I don't know if it's like an empathic thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Putting myself in these situations, like I can't watch Jackass. My balls hurt when they get kicked in the nuts. It's like I feel the shit. It's crazy. So I'm like imagining being there, floating in the water, watching my only source of light and life float away in the darkness.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck was this guy experiencing? What was he feeling? And I hated that feeling. And I mean, after that time when we hit ports, man, instead of going off for any kind of educational tours to learn about the land we were in, I was in the red light district drinking or screwing my pain away.
Yeah,
trying to numb, you
I
know?
do. Is that when alcohol really took off? You think right about then?
Yeah, it definitely amped up quite a bit. I mean, I there was drinking when I was a kid with my friends and how it made me
Sure.
feel, that warm and fuzzy, fun, or
And
I
and
was
you're
more of a life of a party, and
chasing that
towards,
first drink, chasing that
yeah,
first drink on every other drink after that.
yeah. But
Yep.
it definitely, there was something else now I was feeling that I was uncomfortable feeling. And I didn't back then, I didn't go, I need to go talk to a chaplain. I need to talk to somebody. This is really freaking me out because, we're men on a mission, I don't have. For that shit,
I
Uh,
do.
no. So uh, for years I numbed that. So then when I go on my last deployment and we lose a couple guys, and I'm wondering, why is this affecting me so much? Um, but it was just because I never really processed the
The first
original
one.
stuff. Yeah.
Right. Now I want to be clear. You deployed as DFAS, Defense Finance and Accounting Services, on your last deployment in the Navy, but you didn't stay in your buildings. You were one of those guys that like to fill in when they needed an extra body for certain things, right? You
Yeah.
would
When
always,
I was when I got deployed my last time, like said, I was an individual augmentee, and I did the customs. I was put part of a customs unit, and we were the guys that would inspect all the vehicles and all the cargo before it comes back from combat to the States. The people, the soldiers and whoever else coming, the personnel coming back, we'd inspect their gear, making sure they're not bringing shit home that they're not supposed to be bringing,
sure.
making sure the vehicles aren't, like contaminated, all that stuff. And but we also ran like escort missions where we would like ride alongside um the vehicles that were transporting from base to base, or personnel do DV missions, like if like any distinguished visitors were coming through town, we would meet them at their airport and go through their bag, and stuff like that. But then during this last deployment, what was different too is I had two kids now, so it's like things
Yep.
are a lot changes when you have people you need to get back home
Yep.
to be with, and I had something that I didn't want to be away from, during that time. When the first deployment, I'm young and it's just me, and who gives a shit, you know
Yep.
and the last one was complete opposite. It's like, I don't care what it takes or who has to go, as long as it's not me, because I need to get home to be with my kids,
I do.
and but then that downtime was even worse because I'm missing my kids, and I'm missing you know something else that is more important than me or to me. And so I'd volunteer to do more shit to stay busy. Like I would volunteer to do security detail for any of the people, distinguished visitors or like entertainers that would come and entertain us, like the armed forces entertainment people. I got
Sure.
to be like security for Scott Stapp from Creed, when he came over and played our bass, and for Everclear, and
Wow.
people like that. So that was cool. And then I was still involved in the music thing too,
Right.
so it was cool to have that distraction. But yeah, I was just like, I didn't like downtime, because then I'd
I
just be in my
yes.
head, you know?
Yes, I do understand. You can only do laundry and make your bed so many fucking times.
Yep.
Yes, I get it. I get
And,
it.
I
So,
mean, I wasn't as young as I used to be. I could only like friggin' rub one off or something too, like so much too.
yeah, yeah. Instead of 6 or 7 times a day, it's six or
Yeah.
seven
Like,
times a week.
all
I
right,
get
I got to
it.
find something else to keep me at.
I can only read so many romance
Yeah.
novels.
Like,
Yeah.
I never used to like the gym, but now I'm spending more time in the gym here,
So you know what, you said something in there. You still had the music thing. You were part of like a local music promoter. Like you were a local music promoter in Cleveland in the area while you were in the reserves. and that got you into what you're doing now. I want to come back to how you got. Well, let's rephrase. At what point did you figure out that your drinking was too much? That you had to make a change?
Um, Honestly, it was that last deployment. Um, I believe honestly, because now that I've been involved in a spiritual program for a number of years, that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself with that deployment. I because I'm doing the concert promotion thing here in the States. I'm working, UPS, and then everybody go out drinking afterwards because we're just complaining about our job and our knees hurt and shit like that. And then on weekends, I'm going to shows. And because I was a promoter, I thought I was a big deal because everybody knew my name. You're like Norm from
Yep.
Cheers, when you walk into the venues, and it was getting it definitely was off the hook, out of control. And it was like where as much as I said I missed my kids during that last deployment, well, but I wasn't a good dad when I was home, because I would, I'd do what I thought a dad was supposed to do, and then go out, to be, where I thought I was a big deal, or just go escape through drinking and stuff like that. And because I got those orders to go to that deployment to a dry country, you start drying out a little bit, you start seeing things more clearly, and you start realizing, when some of your buddies are, going home in a flag draped coffin, that if that's me under there, what are my girls going to remember? What's their memories of dad going to be like? And they were little, but still, it's like there was an influence. I was, not the best back then,
Yeah, I get it. I get it
So
all the
yeah,
way.
so
I
that
get it.
was that deployment, which, it's funny because like the first deployment kind of starts it, then the second deployment's kind of like, all right, we got to stop, we got to make some changes, because it's like I said, there was no kids involved the first one, there's kids involved the second one. I dry off enough where I didn't want to come home and be the same person. Now I did come home for a little bit at the beginning and was the same person. Like my welcome home party was held at Peabody's, which was a concert venue here in Cleveland. Some friends of mine band played, and it was a big deal. And I was like, the heroes welcome and shit like that. And I don't remember anything from it. I see videos and I see pictures and I'm embarrassed,
Mhm.
and there, I think there was some pants pissing that evening as well when I came home. Not intentional, but it was I woke up that next morning pretty beat up, hungover, and my oldest daughter, who was 8 years old at the time, is like, Daddy, I don't want to see you like this anymore. And I'm like, honey, I don't want to live like this anymore. And we did a pinky swear thing that I would straighten out. It didn't happen right away, but I was cutting back, I was seeking something else. And I mean, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and get into the whole
Do it.
spiritual
Do
thing
it.
too. I'm, so like I wasn't a good partner to the mother of my kids either. I was, when I'm out drinking at the shows and thinking I'm a big deal, I'm whoring around, I'm a womanizer. Deployments, what happens on AT stays on AT, that mindset, shit like that. So I wasn't a good partner at all. And but while I was deployed, she ended up having an affair in a relationship. And it's like, now it's happening to me. And it's like, this is bullshit. But at the same time, I was like, well, look at what I did to prepare, her for this,
Right.
So I come home, find out that was going on. And because originally I had intentions of trying to be better, when I came home and trying to fix everything. But by then the damage was done and I still wanted to be better, but we just realized that we weren't going to be able to be better together. We're better probably now as friends trying to co-parent than we were as a couple. But anyway, I come home, I'm dealing with that. I'm looking at losing my kids altogether because she's ready to move on and take them. And my niece at the time was expecting a child, and they discovered she had cervical cancer. And to treat the cancer, they ended up losing the child. And they were very involved with their church. In fact, they were always kind of like, on me, you need Jesus, Billy, and stuff like that. And back then I wasn't, I wasn't receptive. I didn't want to hear that stuff. I'm too busy being Dollar Bill in the music scene, I'm Jesus, in the music scene, or whatever. And so I go just to show support. They had a little service for the child, and I go just to show support, to be there for my family. And the pastor's talking, and they had a regular service beforehand, and then the family service after. The pastor's giving his sermon that day, man, and I'm just like sitting there, and I'm just like, this dude's talking to me, man. It's like,
Right.
He's talking about me and what a freaking mess I am, and how much I need, a savior. And now I just start breaking down crying, man, in the middle of the church. And I'm getting choked up a little bit now. It's not just my stuff.
Oh, I get it.
But at the end, my family's just like, maybe you should talk to the pastor. So I'm like, yeah, I talked to him, and then told him what was going on, what was up, and ended up giving my life to Christ there. And there was another, hold on, I gotta blow my nose. All right.
I know exactly what you're talking about when you hear someone talk directly to you who's talking to a group. I get that. I've been there. I've felt it. It'll take your feet out from under you.
Yeah. And as I've been on this journey, I look back at all the times that I didn't think anybody was there with me, but God was there, and so I give my life to Christ. We start talking. I connected with the one youth pastor there, and I'm like, well, listen, I got like a drink and a drug problem, and that's probably just the tip of the iceberg of some of my problems. Do you guys offer anything here? And she's like, no, but the church that I belong to now offered all that stuff, a big recovery, and all kinds of things for the issues we seem to kind of get and deal with. So that's when my recovery journey started, when I finally was like serious, like, okay, I need to get sober. And then as I'm getting sober, as we know in the program, alcohol is but a symptom,
Right.
of our character defects and other issues. And I'm learning, man, like these guys are in there confessing about masturbating to porn and stuff like that. I'm like, I traded that shit like baseball cards in the military. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Let's say we're men. It's what we do,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's different. It's different.
And then as time goes on, I'm like, well, if it's something that's keeping me from my relationship with God, and I keep justifying some of this behavior that follows, then maybe it's something I need to look at, and time goes on and you're sober, you start learning there's other layers of the onion you need to start working on and working through,
I do. I've been without alcohol for this year will be 15 years. I mean, today's 4 years, 8 months, and X amount of days, but we only have today. But just recently, in the past probably 2.5, 3 years, I started allowing myself to be me. And why I say that is because earlier you said that we try to impress our fathers, right? Our very first hero. We want to do everything that makes them happy. We want them to be proud of us. And my father didn't say the I love yous or I'm proud of you or things like that. And if he did, I didn't hear them. So I was always looking for that. And I was always this tough guy. My dad didn't show emotions. My dad didn't cry. My dad didn't hug. barely kissed or showed affection to my mother. And that's just the way that they were. Nothing wrong with them or that relationship. That's just the way they were, but it's not who I am. And in the past couple of years, I've realized who I am. And I am a very compassionate person. I do have a lot of empathy for others. I am allowed to reach out and help. I don't have to look at the negativity on everything. I don't have to be a cynic. I can be myself. My counselor told me recently that it's okay to love your parents and not have them be your mentor.
Yeah.
It's okay to love them and not want to be like them. That's okay. And that took a long time for me. Um, I thought I needed to be like they were. I needed to collect junk. I needed to work on everything. I need to be able to fix everything. Well, no, I don't. My kids think I can fix everything, which I don't know how that is, but they think I can fix everything. I just have tools and people who know how to do things. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin that image for them. You talk about the divine intervention, the pinky swear with your daughter. Um, my last drunk was my oldest daughter's 13th birthday party, and I was blacked out by 4:30. And by 8 o'clock, I was sent packing out of my house. And my wife wrote me a letter after a couple 3 days and said, it was 4 pages long. Essentially, it said, I'm prepared to raise these children on my own. You will have nothing to do with them as long as you're drunk. Until you get sober, you can't, you're not going to see them. And, that hit home. That was, hey, it's time to make a change. Go to the programs, 87 meetings in 90 days, trying to listen to what they say, and trying to understand, resentments, guilt, pride, all the things that they tell you are, tied to your drinking and why you're drinking. Cause I was a guy that drank whether I was happy or sad, upset or, it didn't matter. I drank all the time, whatever the occasion, celebratory or, revenge drinking or whatever. I did it. I did it all the
Yeah.
time.
I'll show you.
I'll show you, and I gave it up. That was the last time. And, my daughter's now 27 years old. She's going to be a crew chief for the Air Force Thunderbirds. She reports tomorrow morning to the Thunderbirds in Vegas. And I couldn't be more proud of her. And, back then, like you said, I wasn't a great dad. And my wife had said, if you keep on her the way you keep on her, you're never going to have a relationship with her. And now, she's been in the service 4 years, just this last December. And she probably calls every day or every other day with, how fantastic her life is and how much she appreciates the Air Force and what a fantastic opportunity it is. And how she gets to bounce things off of me that I and her both understand that mom just doesn't. And life is so much better for me now being able to A, not drink, and B, be myself, which is, yeah, I have a lot of things in my past, but I'm very open about almost everything in my past. And I'm okay with it. And I'm okay with who I am now. That was the hard one for me. I have to be okay with me, right? I don't have to be that dad that falls asleep on the couch at 7 o'clock. I don't have to be the dad that's constantly working on the car. I don't have to be that guy. I can be me. I want to go out to a show. I want to go to a concert. I want to go to a bar with my friends and watch a band play. I can do that. Things that my parents never ever did. And I always thought were stupid because of what I had the image of a father to be. Well, I'm very happy with who I am as a father. And I think my kids are very happy with who I am as a father now. And I could never have done that without giving up the alcohol. And you call it God. I don't call it God because I have a problem with one supreme being, but I have definitely a spiritual belief where if you're good things happen. And when you help people, good things happen. And when you do it without wondering what your reward is, good things will happen. So I just try to be a better person now, a better husband, a better father. I stop and I listen. All things I could not have done had I not, July 4th of 2008 at 1 o'clock in the morning, throwing my hands up, coming home from work, bawling like a schoolgirl and said, I can't take this fucking drinking problem anymore. Take it away from me. I didn't say God. I didn't say Yahweh, Allah, Buddha. I didn't say nothing. I just said, I can't do this any fucking more. Take this problem from me. And I have not had the obsession to drink since. So higher power, God, karma, kismet, whatever you want to call it, it worked for me. And I think a lot of people need to hear that you don't have to profess it to a God that you know. It's a God of your understanding. And that understanding can be the tree in the front yard. It can be a rock that you hug onto at night. It can be a box that you ceremoniously bury shit in so it goes away, or things like whatever you need to do to just surrender and say, I am not the one in ultimate control.
Yeah.
And I think once that happens, this healing process essentially will begin. That, you know what, you're fallible, you make mistakes, things happen, you move on, and you become better for it. That's where my drinking took me.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up too, because this is like, I've been kind of like, my spiritual path has recently kind of been changing as well. Like, and going back real quick to the dad thing, it's like, I remember my dad coming home from work and singing like, hey baby, it's cold outside or whatever, to my mom and swooning her. And, so it's like, I always, kind of like, but my dad flirted with the waitresses in front of my mom and stuff like that too. He was always like, kind of like a playboy,
Right.
And I was
right.
like, I want to be like that, but, and it wasn't all good things that I was picking up, but he had his rage issues and PTSD, and I'd be getting my ass kicked thinking, okay, what did I do this time? But as I started that journey getting sober, and then kind of like, I was raised Catholic, so it's like I had
me too.
one view of what God was and what Jesus was and all that stuff.
Everybody else is wrong. Catholics are right.
Yeah.
You're guilty for everything.
Like,
oh, I get it. I was there.
The shame and guilt and everything. But meet this dude in a robe, tell him what you did. He'll give you a little homework assignment of a couple Hail Marys. You're good to go. You could you dry erase board, rubs off your sin, and now you can fill it up again with new sin until the next time. That's kind of what I gathered out of that. But then I get this church that you don't need a priest. You can have a relationship with God that you could go to directly. You surround yourself with other men that are trying to, stay right. And, I was struggling with some of that discipleship stuff because of that Catholic upbringing. But as the time went, I was involved with this program that they offered called Practical Christian Living. And it was small groups where dudes would get together. We'd do these assignments and share stuff with each other on our journey. And, it's like mini AA like type stuff, but it was like a spiritual assignment, but more for, Christian based, and this was back then. Well, anyway, at the end of when I went through the one time, I think it was the second or third time I was going through this, there was a Vietnam Marine with me in my group, and I clicked with him. He became like my spiritual daddy. And I was like, man, you got to meet my dad. I want you to meet my dad, and we do the whole process. And at the end, they have a potluck dinner where everybody brings their spouse or significant other, and we all have fellowship. All the small groups come together as one, and we all have fellowship at the end. Well, I'm a single dad at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to bring my dad as my spouse, because I want him to meet this guy, So my kids were still kind of little then. My mom stayed home with the kids, watched my girls, and I took my dad, and we had a great time. And he got to meet Bob, the Vietnam Marine, and hit it off. And we get home that night, and my dad, I'm getting ready to take the girls home. My dad takes my hand, and he takes my mom's hand, and he's like, I want you to know how proud I am of our son. And like right now, like I'm getting choked up again.
Right.
But I started crying right then and there. And he's like, why is he crying? And my mom's crying too, you know? And he's like, why are you guys crying? And she's like, he's been waiting to hear this his whole life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because of being sober, because of trying to do the right thing, and because of trying to grow and giving up, you know, the old life that I lived, you know, I believe that I got blessed with that opportunity. And then as my dad aged and, you know, dementia started kicking in, I got to be there and be of service to him, be of service. You know, I still try and be of service to my mother today now. And, you know, it was an awesome thing. I did get to have that, you know, moment, you know.
Well, you got me crying because I had to hear that from my dad too when I got sober. And the way that my old man, he had a funny way of putting stuff. Just out of the clear blue in his basement one day, he just looked at me and he just goes, you know what? You were a real asshole. I'm glad you quit drinking. That was
Yeah.
it, you know. And now that his, you know, dementia's taken over and, you know, he doesn't remember a whole lot from day to day. Whenever I tell him I'm doing something, helping a Vietnam vet or doing the podcast, or, you know, I hit a milestone or something, he gets tears in his eyes and he can't say anything. So I asked him the other day, I said, what are you trying to say that you can't get out? And he just looks at me, you know, tears and blubbering. And I said, just say it, Dad. Just say it. That's all you have to say. Just say it. I've been waiting to hear it for 50 years. I want to hear you say it. And he just said he couldn't do it. You know, he just couldn't do it. And that's okay. That's okay. He's just not that man. So I'm okay with that. But he's definitely proud of me. And I have that off my shoulders now, I guess you'd say. I don't carry that with me, wondering if I made an impact on my dad, if I made my dad proud. I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
I can be myself. It's almost a relief. Like, okay, I did it right. Okay, my dad's proud, you know?
Like when my dad passed, you know, because I got an older step brother or half sister. And you know, they did, you know, there was a lot of resentments, I guess, growing up to the way he handled things, especially when the rage stuff kicked in. He didn't have an alcohol problem or whatever, but he definitely had a rage problem. But I mean, the dude was in the invasion of Okinawa. He saw some shit, and they
Yeah.
didn't have what we have today, you know. So it's like
Right.
I got a better understanding. You know, I didn't understand my dad's PTSD until I went and got my own, you know. So
Right. Right.
now I have more empathy and understanding for him. And then I was being able like be there with him and say everything we need to say to each other. So when he passed, I was at
It was
peace,
good. That's right.
you know, I
That's
was
right.
at peace. And I know, you know, my siblings, you know, some of them still struggle because they didn't have that
Mhm.
opportunity, but you know, because of whatever, you know, my higher power, you know, decided it was you know, it was good that I needed it more, maybe, or
That's
whatever.
right.
I don't know. But speaking of what you said too about the whole spiritual thing, like, you know, recently I've been you know, the good thing you know, I love Jesus Christ and who he is and what he represents and what my personal view of him is and my personal relationship is of him, you know. But the problem I run into with Christianity are with the Christians, you know.
Yes.
And I've been just experiencing more and more of that, where it's like I'm kind of on a different journey. Like Jesus Christ is still my higher power, but I'm looking at him more as like a Buddha, as a guru, as a teacher, you know. Then and knowing that I'm all right with him, you know, I've had like other men in some of the groups I used to be a part of, like especially the Christian core groups, because I'm still involved with music. I've become friends with so many musicians who are in recovery and have a spiritual connection. And, you know, when they come through town, they're like, Bill, we're in town, come see us, put me on the guest list. And I get to go to these shows now sober and
Right.
enjoy sober fellowship afterwards and enjoy the connection and the bond I have with this music. But because it's secular, you know, I have these guys from these Christian groups kind of like trying to dumped their shame and guilt on me for being a part of that. And I just said, enough's enough, man. And
I
I
agree.
walked away from that. I'm like, I'm not going to carry your shame and guilt. I believe, if there's I pray for conviction and discernment and, some guidance and I don't feel any kind of shame or guilt for going to these shows and hanging out and fellowshipping with these men. In fact, the last few times I've been out, I've had some more of my friends that are in that world see me drinking a water, kicking back, having a good time, enjoying music, asking me, hey, what's different about you? You look good. You look happy. You look at peace.
Right?
What is, and then I get to share what's working for me.
That's
and what
right.
I've been doing, and with these other stuffy, nose, whatever, dudes that are telling me not to go, would they be able to be there to love on these people and show them that there's other ways to live?
Nope.
Because they're not willing to go there because they're like, it's bad. You're getting pulled back into this. So I'm like, there are some things that, I still struggle with, like with the women and stuff. I'm a single guy, and I'm looking into honestly looking into SLAA. A friend referred me, so I'm going to look into that, because I want to have a normal relationship. I don't want to be a creep anymore, but I know that who my heart is and my intentions is I'm not trying to be that guy anymore.
Right. And that's what matters. That's what matters.
Yeah.
Hey,
And,
listen, I want to take another quick break, and then I want to get into what you're doing now. Cause, it's been pretty awesome for you the last couple of years with your faith and your sobriety and how you started your show, Today's Boondoggle. Okay.
Yeah, for sure, man. Cause that still plays a role in my growth and my therapy,
Absolutely. So. Well, all right. We'll be back in just a minute.
Down before. It's got my mind racing, thinking thoughts I shouldn't be thinking. So many things went wrong, so many friends have gone. I've been hurting for so long. Another day, and I'm still here. I pray it won't find me, but it snuck up behind me. Can't do what I want to, just trying to get through, because I love you. But I won't give up, I won't quit. I'm not built that way. mistakes I can take back. Won't do them again. Not that it matters now. Won't leave you here. Want to stay near. Do all I hold dear. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Just try to forget. Try not to lose my mind. Can't believe what you've done. You've made me so numb. I learned what not to be.